Yeah.
then you got that too. So I appreciate it. You are on a mission. And so when I heard that, I wasn't quite sure what that really meant. And it sounded like, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, that you may not have known what that meant. You had to reflect on it a bit. And so I so appreciated it. So raising the consciousness, raising the conscious level of the planet, talk to me. Is that one that seems overwhelming? I just hiked 18 miles yesterday and I thought that was something, but you're talking about something literally on a global scale. Carol, what are you talking about? Please tell me. And let's go back because we might need to go back some steps and then forward a couple of steps because this is your transformation.
Certainly.
Okay.
Yes. So, yes, my transformation of raising my consciousness on this planet is and continues to be, you know, the transformation of me. And what I mean is really raising my self-awareness with the question of who am I being right now? And who will I be at the end of this journey? So I can go back to, back in time when my journey began. And I believe that I have mentioned that, but I will mention it again, is my journey to self-awareness began in earnest on the day that I was in essence was instructed by my doctor of either I deal with my life and the mental and emotional burnout that I was in the throes of, or she would make me deal with it, which quite frankly scared the crap out of me and was what I needed to make that split decision that, Carol, you need to figure out who you are. That is easier said than done. And that journey of raising our consciousness, of really beginning to discover who we are, is not a journey out there, but a journey in here. And it really is that journey of traveling, that 18-inch journey of traveling from your head to your heart. Has that been easy? Absolutely not. Did I go kicking and screaming? You bet I did. It was like, enough already. And yet that happened in uh, mid 1994.
Okay.
So here
Well,
I am, and that journey continues.
well, so many questions then arise.
Okay.
And I'm known as the question guy. I've branded myself that. And so, no pun intended, too many questions arise with all of that. And the first thing that came to my mind was why? And not so much why make the effort. That's not the question. Is why are people in such a position that they don't know who they are, that they're not really aware, in a sense that they know themselves. I know myself by a name. I do have a name. My parents gave me a name. I know myself by a title. I've gave myself a title. Well, I branded myself a title, but I also earned myself a title as doctor. I have given myself, I have two children. I've got a boy who's an adult now, a young adult, and I've from a previous marriage, and I've got a daughter who's will be 14 soon from my current marriage. So I have an idea of who I am, but I have a feeling that's not at all what you're telling me. you are taking a different type of self-awareness journey. Am I on the right track here?
Yes,
Okay,
you're on the right track.
okay.
And perhaps it will clarify if I go backwards from that moment when the doctor said, Carol, you need to deal with this.
Okay, please.
So I go back in time to the baby that was, yes, born to a mom and a dad on the Canadian prairies, on a farm, and a beautiful setting for who I am, because nature is very important to me, as are animals. I have a strong connection to animals. At age 5, my dad said to me, Carol, you come with me and I'll teach you how to be a farmpreneur. Well, great. I learned about leadership working with animals. And I learned that you don't lead a horse the same way as you lead a turkey. It requires different skills.
Hmm.
Because horses are incredible animals, just so very incredible. Their emotional field, of course, because of their start is, their emotional field is 2 times as large as yours and mine. So a horse, phenomenal teacher, absolutely phenomenal teacher. So getting back to life on the farm was wonderful. I struggled with not having a strong attachment with my mother, and I could never figure that out. There was something that just didn't jive there. As well, when I was a little girl, I was sexually assaulted by a neighbor, and that went on for a good number of years. And nobody, when I would speak of it, nobody would hear me, or maybe they couldn't, or they wouldn't. I don't know. So all of that mixed in with, the life on the farm and learning to be a leader, I, took all of that in and proceeded to believe that I had to be somebody in order to be me. I had to show others that I was enough, that I was worthy. And I developed some coping skills that, quite frankly, led me down the path of burnout. I was in my first leadership job at the age of 19. Was I trained for that? Absolutely not. But I was asked, because of my leadership that I had taken all through my growing up and in school, and well, Carol can do that. And off I went. And I discovered that I loved the work of serving others. And then I went on to get education. But what I also did, because of my low self-esteem, and in fact, I think my self-esteem was in the tank, was that I became a workaholic.
Hmm.
And I was going to prove to everybody that I could be successful, that I could be someone. I also became a mother to 4 beautiful children. So there I was, a workaholic, raising 4 children. I was also in a violence-filled marriage. And I mean, I was a disaster waiting to happen. And quite frankly, it did happen.
I was about to say,
It did happen. As I now jokingly say, although at that time it wasn't a joke, was the universe kept knocking and I wasn't paying attention. So finally, the universe grabbed a hold of me and said, well, Carol, if you're not going to pay attention to who you are, I'll make you pay attention. Well, guess what? It was, Carol, you need to deal with this, or I'll make you. And in essence, really, it's like I created somebody I wasn't, if that makes any sense, you
And
know?
and it does. And so from that perspective, and I think, and if I were to share my story, and I have been on different podcasts and different shows and different conversations, is that um, without the correct nurturing, and I like that word, we don't get an opportunity to figure out and understand and appreciate and value who that person is on the end, who that person is, that consciousness, that energy, whatever that is inside of this, skin and bones, there's something there, something very unique, powerful, and we don't ever get in touch with it. It's like we have to be, and I wrote about this in my book. We have to be something that somebody else expects of us. We have to fill in the shoes of whatever that looks like, whatever that space is. Sometimes we get lucky and it does align with who we are, and most of the time it doesn't. We don't get lucky. Now there are some aspects of the things that I might like being a dad. I do like being a dad. You might like being a mom and you're pretty good at it. But then the journey that says we sit back and we breathe, and I've learned to breathe. Several people have taught me how to breathe. And then we say, well, what do I do? Who am I? How does it align with what I want to be? And so the questions now is I want to ask you two questions because I hear this a lot, and you just said it, and you said it in our previous conversations. Universe comes back and cycles back again, which tends to tell me that it has a consciousness because it's doing something intentional. If it's coming back to you and saying, and it sees you as valuable. Otherwise, I don't think it would do either. It wouldn't come back to you and say, you need to change. And it's focusing its energies on you. You must be important. And I don't say that tongue in cheek. We all are important, but literally the universe is telling you, Carol, you are important. Otherwise, I wouldn't be spending the energy to come back and say, you need to change. I want us to deal with that space first before we move forward, because I think there's something there that I've had conversations that get to that point, but that seems to be a block. And maybe you are the person I need to talk to that will tell me there's beyond that block. The universe cycles. We When we get to the point when we recognize it and we say, okay, it's time for me to change. But what is it about that space around the universe that says you are so important? And that's why I keep on knocking on your door. I need to figure that part out. I haven't figured that part out yet. Have you figured that part out yet? That part that
Uh,
says you're important?
So from my perspective, we each, we each collectively, we have a purpose. I mean, we are here in this lifetime. And for me, it was the recognition that, yes, there's me, but there is a power within me, if that makes sense to you. That's what I felt was, yes, there's me, but I am connected to a power, a bigger power. And it was when for me, the recognition that yes, I'm here to serve. It was also that recognition that I'm not here by myself, And because I believe we are energy, every one of us, we are energy, we are and operate at frequencies and vibrations. That energy inside of me really is what I refer to as the spiritual being. And I'm having these human experiences so that I am able then to serve others through my own experiences and how I've moved through them. And being connected to what I'm going to say is the greater good. Is that making sense for you? And
Yeah.
so for me,
So, well, I'll concur with a couple of things. So one, it does make sense because I concur that we are spiritual beings, and if that means if that correlates with the fact that we are energy, which has no shape or form, then I do agree with that. Only for lack of any other words to talk to speak to those context. Spirit, energy, yes. Because of that, that means we have to recognize that all human beings on the planet are under that same idea, regardless of who they are, what color of their skin, where they are on the planet, they're spiritual, cognizant, they have an awareness, and their energy, which correlates to your frequency model and vibrational model. Not quite sure where that fits into the picture, but at any rate, there's a recognition of some form of power, some form of intelligence, some form of awareness. And then I would grant, again, I need to come back to the fact that we have importance. We're important for a reason. We can't just be here to be here. That wouldn't make any sense. At a high, and I'll use your words, at a higher consciousness level, it wouldn't make sense that we're just another animal, like a turkey or a horse or whatever. That would make sense because they don't, even though we might recognize that they have emotions, and you said, or a horse's emotional space is much larger than that is. I don't know. Um, but I think to some degree, even my cat is aware that she's alive. She doesn't always, she takes advantage of that a lot of times in my house. But I say all that to say is we have to recognize that we are important, valuable, and we have a purpose. And those are the three words that have been carrying with me since 2023 into 2024. And I'm trying to find the people who recognize the same, that we have value, we're important, and we have a purpose. You are one of those people. But to what extent is that important? To what extent do we do with that? Because all I see around me, and if I just turned on, Yahoo, that's where one of my email accounts are with, Putin is talking about World War III. What the heck? How can there are people on this earth that recognize that we can do some greater good. We definitely need to, but on a larger scale, we're not doing what we need to do. So we need to do something. We need to do something differently. And we had this conversation before. We need to do something soon. I'm afraid we're going to lose whatever power we think we have. And so I was hoping this conversation would at least be the start of many more that would suggest, yeah, okay, let's take that awareness, let's take that spirituality, let's take that energy and do something with it. Otherwise, it's here and we're not using it purposefully. I've spoken too much.
you can keep speaking because it's important that you keep speaking, Keith. And I have heard you say we need to move, we need to act, because there is important work to do. And where I come at it then of saying of raising the feminine and masculine vibrations. Now, what I know, and you can challenge me on this, is I have learned over time that raising that consciousness, I can't raise your consciousness. I can plant seeds, or like you, I can ask questions, or like you, I can be curious. And in my communication, I can actually create the environment for someone else to begin to take action. And I'm not sure I shared this with you, but I will share this story with you. Some weeks back, I gave a presentation. And that presentation, I talked about a self-image adjustment.
Mm.
One of the women who was in the audience came up to me after I had finished my presentation and said, "Carol, you made me cry." And I just looked at her and smiled, because inside of me, I was going, "Yay, I made you cry." And I was doing, I was coming from a place of love.
Mhm.
I then met her 2 or 3 weeks later, and she came up to me at this event that we were both at, and she said, "Carol, you have no idea how I have now changed my life." Well, no, I wouldn't have any idea. I wasn't the one changing her life, but I was a catalyst.
Mhm.
So I believe that I have that ability to be that catalyst, to turn coal into gold,
Mhm.
as you do as well. There will be some people who, as soon as you begin to talk, they'll be right there because they're on the cusp and they're wanting to raise their awareness. There will be others where you have to plant the seed, and using your 25-mile hike the other day, you would find is if you invited different individuals to come with you, you would discover how many of them were kind of on the precipice of shifting their awareness, or those that were 25 miles behind you.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
It does. I kind of wanted to start doing that in some way, shape, or form. I'm not quite sure how the model behind it in my head yet, but I think there's definitely something there because that's my space. I am an individual who will always challenge his physical body to any limit possible. Now, in a certain way, like I'm not trying to overexert myself, trying to with strength or anything, but I know my body is made for endurance, despite my asthma condition. I could push it pretty darn far.
Mhm.
But then that taps into the idea that that also is correlated and has a relationship with, I know I'm trying to use that word in the right way, has a relationship with my awareness, my consciousness, and my energy, my spiritual energy. So they are related in some way. I'm not quite sure how just yet, but I know what I do physically affects everything else in my body. But what I want is for that exertion and the energy and that power to push out those 18, 19, 20-mile days to say, okay, how does that grow my internal strength? How does that grow my awareness of who I am? 20 miles with a pack on my back is physically exerting. Um, So there needs to be intentional purpose behind it. You know, it's not just about hiking those 18 miles and wearing my body out. And it's not just about me learning the extent of my physical energy. There has to be more, there has to be a deeper reason for it. I have yet to tap into that. I don't know what it is yet. And that's part of my journey.
So my challenge to you, Keith, when you are on your walk, is to just, whether it's when you begin your walk, whether it's on your walk, or whether at the end of your walk, just put a question out there: is what is the purpose? You know, show me what the purpose of my walk is. And then be open to the answers that may come. That might sound woo, but there will be, either there'll be an answer or there'll be something that will happen that will show you. And one of the other things for me that I have learned over time and constantly remind myself is to be in deep gratitude for who I am and for the gifts that have come my way. And what I mean by that is, yes, speaking is a gift, but being in service is another gift.
Mm.
And being incredibly grateful for that. One of the other aspects of my journey and really being out there for others as well is learning to bless me and all the different aspects of me, as well as, you know, blessing others is, you know, if I write an email, I might say, be blessed, or if I'm having a meeting with someone, or as, you know, here I am on a Zoom call with you, and I just, Keith, be blessed. Really, truly be blessed. And I'm coming from my heart to your heart. And again, you know, we'll bring that word of love, which is both an act, you know, it's an action, it's a verb, and it's also a noun. It means different things to different people. But really and truly, when I am living in my authentic me and being there for you, that truly is part and parcel of also planting seeds. So as you're doing that 25-mile hike, I mean, what's coming up for me is just like the gratitude everywhere, and, you know, blessing your body for carrying you, walking with you, being there for you. Absolutely amazing. And that tells me that you were also then and there for others as well, as they are walking their 25-mile journey. So you can use your walk as a metaphor for someone else who perhaps is struggling right today. They know they want to take some steps, but quite frankly, they're haven't yet figured out, you know, where that authenticity is inside of them, or they're afraid to be a little bit of stepping into the vulnerability of who they are. You are, you know, with what you are creating, wow. That to me is raising consciousness, one tiny step at a time.
Okay, so let's wrap into this. Let's touch on this a little bit deeper. So the one thing I know for sure is I'm training the physical component of this, the earthly component of this is there's an Appalachian Trail, Maine to, you know, Georgia to Maine, Maine to Georgia, whatever way you want to go. north to south, south to north. I got to get my body physically ready. I've got to get my brain physically ready. And quite frankly, I've got to get my emotions emotionally ready. Um, so there is an end result to the training. There's a specific reason why I get up and do this crazy stuff. And there's a specific reason why I, did the 18 miles yesterday, in addition to, spending time with a colleague and friend, Tina, who shared 6 miles of that journey with me. So part of it is to say, I want to complete the trek. I want to start and finish. I want that to be part of my life, to say that past, multiple suicide attempts on a heart attack, I still woke up every day, redesigned my life, fed it what I needed to feed, literally fed it, rechanged my diet, rechanged my exercise. I'm smaller now than I ever have been in my entire life. Well, considering my age, I'm 54. But at the same time, pre-heart attack, post-heart attack, I'm healthier than I've ever been. So all those, every time the universe comes and slaps you in the face and says, this isn't your authentic self. Your authentic self is over, you're doing something that isn't you. So I'm tapped into who I am, first. I'm an amateur endurance athlete. I've always wanted to be. I have an asthma condition, so I can't necessarily run miles on end, but I can dang sure hike with a 30-pound pack on my back. The situation to go from Georgia to Maine is enticing to me. You're out in nature. You have to face the environment. You have to plan the whole expedition all the way through, including food, gear, resupplying, all that stuff. And so that's fun to me. So it's actually new to me, but it's a little bit intriguing. It's fun. Now I want to come back to what you just said, that use it as a metaphor. And I need to do a shout out real quick because I think she'd appreciate it. Diane Wiska. I'm kind of correlating, working synchronously with her to help me figure some of this stuff out, because I've asked her to help me improve my vocabulary, meaning that this is all part of my narrative and I need to share it better. And I want to help people such as yourself share their narrative in a better way. Maybe better is not the best word for this, but in a more impactful way. And I need to learn how to use words differently. I need to learn how to use words better. But she used the word metaphor. You have just used the word metaphor. I want to tap into what that really means, because if more than one person is telling me the same thing, again, that's that consciousness level saying that the universe is tapping on your shoulder. Listen up, I've got something to say. So, what is the power of a metaphor, especially in the way that you and I are kind of using it, or you're using it with me and you're using it with yourself? How do we learn from a metaphor or the use of a metaphor? Because this is now, I think, where the power is.
It is, and may I share a story with you?
Please do.
Now, this story is about a client who came to me. And for the first 2 sessions, sat and cried. And I just let them cry. I just held space for them.
Mm.
On the 3rd session, the tears started up again. And the power from within, there was a little voice that said, those tears, there's a pattern there of woe be me. And all of a sudden, out of my mouth came the words, when are you going to stop running? Those words were no sooner out and the tears were gone. The person sat up straight in the chair, which was across from me, and just looked at me. And I had happened to look, did a full body scan. And I could feel a smile coming onto my face. And I looked back up at them and said, so when are you going to stop wearing runners? They actually got up out of the chair and they left. And I didn't think I would ever see them again.
Oh my goodness.
But in essence, I did. Because they came back again. And they came back in and I'm going to use the word enlightened, from the perspective that they came back with a new awareness of themselves.
Mm.
That awareness was whatever went on inside of them. But that when I said, those words came through me, was, when are you going to stop running? It was enough to shift something inside of them. Mm-hmm. In the period of time that between when they left my office and they came back to let me know what was happening in their life, they had signed up for several courses to improve their work skills. They had begun the process to work towards gaining joint custody of their son. And they had also stepped forward to find a place for them to live. And when they came into my office, they were wearing different shoes. They were wearing walking shoes. And it was really interesting because what they said to me when they came back was, I have worn running shoes for most of my adult life. Now, there is the correlation with whatever, was going on for this individual's life was they were running away from versus stopping and looking at who they were. Now, that individual has gone on to have a successful career. They are now in joint custody with the ex-partner for the child. They have, as I said, built their career. I know that they have moved, from one location to another because they were had accepted a different and better work position. So in essence, that piece of awareness, it was like a little tipping point for them, or a little bit of opening up a little vein for them to begin to go, oh my. Mm-hmm. And for me, the tears were a sign that they were ready. They had to recognize that themselves. So truly, that piece of, or that point of beginning to raise that consciousness, focusing in on what you are preparing yourself for. I mean, it's amazing. I'm really excited here as I listen to you. And the reason I'm excited is, as you're explaining all the preparations, I'm sitting here saying, golly, Carol, gosh, what would have it been like had you prepared yourself for the 33-mile journey through on the Chilkoot Trail in Alaska and BC? I went on that hike without any training, and that was up one mountainside and down the other, and then back up again. and going over the pass, which ended up having to climb a mountain, like climb a mountain face. I'd never done that before. How did I do that? When I got through my fear and vertigo, I did it one step at a time, as everyone else did. But I'm listening to you and I think, ah, preparation? Yeah, that would have been great. That, and this is the difference between you and me as we up level our consciousness. You're a preparer. I'm one that just jumps right in and I'll figure it out as I'm doing it.
Well, I'm figuring out how to prepare is what I'm doing. I just can't jump on the AT and say, oh, this is gonna be fun. Too many variables there.
But does the story that I shared with you does that clarify things for you?
That actually was what we needed to get to because, like you said earlier, you're in a space to plant seeds of change that raise somebody's consciousness. And so I now recognize the value of your efforts. And not that I didn't before, it was just vague and unclear that you're talking about doing this on a global scale. It's not about being at a stadium and, spraying people with whatever message. It's that, well, it could be, but it's literally that connection that you just said. These are words that you've said, and I'm agreeing with them. We are all connected. So you have said that in this conversation and in other conversations. Your job, you feel that your purpose now is to plant those seeds so that whether they're intentional or you're just responding appropriately to what you see based on your own journey. And because you know that you are connected with this other individual in whatever spiritual way that looks, the words that you come out, the prompts and the energy that you are putting forth into this other person's life then gives them that space to feel that slap the universe has just given them, even though it came from you, and say, I don't have to go run and hide. I don't have to be the victim here. I don't have to be the person who's always scared or feels like they're a misfit. And I'm kind of using words that I typically have used with myself in the past. I don't have to always be the lesser one and not the greater one. I can take responsibility and accountability right here and now and change my space in life, which is what I typically say on my YouTube channel. I'm here to help you change your space and place in life. This was the conversation that needed to happen. This was the conversation that changes for those people who will watch and listen to this as it does get posted. But this is the authentic conversation that definitely needed to happen because now we both have the power. You had it, and now I've received it. So my mission maybe is a bit clearer now.
Oh, thank you. Oh, yes. My energy is vibrating, yes. And that to me is, one step forward, and whether we run the 25 miles or we jog it or we walk it, it's about moving forward on that journey.
No better way to end this conversation, at least the recorded part. And so I'm going to go ahead and stop it.